You're such a terrible daughter-in-law, Lucy. What have I done to you?
I've decided to live with my mom. You're the one who has to leave. Pack up your things and get out.
During my conversation, my mother-in-law and husband yelled. They never tried to understand my side from the beginning. I've made efforts to be understood, but it was pointless. And bit by bit, I had no affections for them anymore. My name is Lucy, 27 years old. It has been 1.5 years since I married Mike. Mike is a bit indecisive, but I thought it would be better to marry someone gentle if we were to live together every day. I believe we have been managing well by cooperating with each other, considering that we both work. Amidst such circumstances, an incident occurred shortly after the new year began. The beginning of the incident was signaled by the sound of the doorbell at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. are precious sleeping hours for us, who both work. Due to exhaustion from the week, it's not easy to wake up that easily. However, I eventually gave in to the sound of the doorbell ringing repeatedly. "Who is it?" I replied in a voice that seemed to convey my sleepiness, and with drowsy eyes. I peeked to see who it was, and who I saw was my mother-in-law. "Lucy, please open up." "Huh? What's wrong, mother-in-law?" My mother-in-law's crying voice resonated early in the morning. I was surprised, and quickly woke up my husband. I urged my husband, who was still half asleep, and together we opened the door while still in our pajamas.
Mom, what happened? It's so early in the morning.
"I've been driven out. Mike, help me." Saying that, my mother-in-law started crying loudly again.
First, come inside.
My mother-in-law, who had entered the house, sat down in the center of the 3-seater sofa.
What on earth happened, Mom? Did you have a quarrel with my sister-in-law?
"We didn't have a quarrel. Erica just drove me out." Erica is my husband's brother's wife. My mother-in-law had been living together with her eldest son and his wife. Pretending to prepare tea for the 3 of them, I escaped to the kitchen. What on earth happened for my mother-in-law to be driven out of her eldest son's house like that? While waiting for the water in the kettle to boil, I strained my ears to listen to their conversation. "Ever since I moved in, I've been constantly criticized as a cause to increase the utility expenses or for that they don't like the taste of my cooking. Isn't that unfair?" My mother-in-law is so energetic from early in the morning. She kept complaining without taking a breath. I let out a deep sigh. My mother-in-law and I have incompatible personalities, and we really do not suit well with each other. If I choose the right, my mother-in-law will always choose the left. When I affirm something, my mother-in-law always denies it. It's always been like that. My mother-in-law and my husband's elder brother and his wife were already living together when my husband and I got married, so I never thought I would live with my mother-in-law, and at least I was relieved about that part. But then an unexpected situation occurred. I never expected my mother-in-law to be kicked out and end up crashing into our house. This morning, I finally reached my limit and talked back, and then I was told to get out of the house. I feel so pathetic, and the tears won't stop. I can't believe my sister-in-law would do such terrible things, though. I wonder if it's true. "Here, have some tea," I offered to my mother-in-law. "Thank you, Lucy. Hey, you'll be on my side, right?" "Huh?" "That's great. I was wondering where to go from here. You'll let me stay here, won't you?" "Huh? I dislike this personality trait of my mother-in-law making decisions all on her own like that. Even during our wedding, she chose the wedding cake and dress without considering our preferences, causing us a lot of trouble. I still get angry when I remember what my mother-in-law did at our wedding. Moreover, our tastes are completely opposite, and the things she chooses don't match with my preference. Convincing her not to ruin our choices requires a lot of effort. It's an event I don't want to remember. Even after marriage, my mother-in-law plans events such as memorial services and New Year's greetings without considering our schedule, causing us to reschedule and adjust our work, which is quite challenging. I'm a reasonable person, so I'm not trying to take over your room. I just want a little space in my son's room, so please don't worry so much. Hold on a second. Is that considered reasonable? Is she really going to live here? I'm confused by the sudden situation. Our home consists of 2 rooms with a living room and dining room and a kitchen, which is provided by the company. And although my husband and I each have our own rooms, there's no spare room at all. Even if she says she'll stay in my husband's room, our house is still too small. It's clear that problems will arise immediately. She's going to settle here? In our house? My mother-in-law? From Sunday morning, it has become an unbelievable situation. After breakfast, my mother-in-law locked herself in my husband's room, and my husband went in to listen to her. While cleaning up breakfast for the 3 of us, I let out a deep sigh. First, I decided to talk to my sister-in-law and try to understand the whole situation. I decided to leave my husband in charge of dealing with my mother-in-law, while I talked to my sister-in-law to understand the whole situation. I'll go grocery shopping for lunch, okay? As I called out from the living room, 2 faces popped out from my husband's room.
Got it. Be careful.
Thank you, Lucy. Take care. Understood. As the 2 peeked out from the door, I thought to myself that they really are a mother and a son. For now, I went shopping, and I stopped by the park to call my sister-in-law. Since I had sent her a message beforehand, she answered the phone right away. Lucy, mother-in-law is causing trouble, isn't she? Are you okay? As soon as she picked up the call, my sister-in-law asked, all worried, Has mother-in-law been causing you a lot of trouble too, Erica? I'm fine, but my husband is really worn out. Huh? My mother-in-law didn't mention anything about my brother-in-law in her story. I wondered what that meant. What did she say? Mother-in-law, I mean. Well, I relayed exactly what I heard from my mother-in-law to my sister-in-law. In a serious voice, my sister-in-law responded, I thought it had come to that, and continued, Lucy, don't believe everything my mother-in-law says. According to Erica, my mother-in-law, my elder brother-in-law, and she had agreed to contribute a fixed amount to the household expenses before they started living together. However, my mother-in-law only kept her end of the deal for the first few months and stopped contributing any money afterward. My brother-in-law repeatedly asked her to follow the rules, but she ignored him and eventually even quit her job. To make matters worse, she started taking money from my sister-in-law's house without permission. From the grocery expenses to the neighborhood association fees, and even the ballet lesson fees for their child. Erica reached her limit and confronted her directly. But my mother-in-law played the victim, and this situation had been going on for a long time. Unaware of all this, my husband and I were living a normal life. So, Erica and her husband started keeping their money at home as little as possible. My mother-in-law, perhaps out of pride, never begged Erica for money and managed to get by with her savings and pension. But my husband got involved in the situation. Recently, my husband won some money playing slots, so he gave my mother-in-law an allowance. That incident completely changed the situation. My mother-in-law started belittling her elder son and praising her second son, in other words, my husband. And that led to this morning's incident. I can't bear this terrible life anymore. Mike will treat me better. My mother-in-law stormed into Erica's bedroom, shouting. Without even listening to what Erica had to say, she ran out of the house before 6 a.m. this morning. Huh? I was speechless. Listening to Erica's story, I was puzzled by how different it was from what my mother-in-law had been saying. Sensing my confusion, Erica expressed her concern and gave me advice. Anyway, don't make any promises or believe what mother-in-law says. I see. Understood. After responding, I hung up the phone. While shopping, I reflected on the conversations between my mother-in-law and Erica, realizing that nothing matched up. I didn't know what to believe, so for now, I decided to talk to my husband about it. I'm back! When I returned home, my mother-in-law and husband were in the living room, welcoming me cheerfully.
Welcome back. I'm going to buy the things my mom needs for her daily life. You take a rest. We'll eat lunch out.
What do you mean? Didn't I say I was going grocery shopping for lunch? We're eating out? And by things needed for daily life, do you mean she plans to keep living here? How long will that be? Is it going to be forever? As I pondered in my mind.
Well then, see you later.
Wait, huh? Even though I tried to stop him, he left without even glancing at me. Unbelievable. I don't care if people say I'm narrow-minded, but I absolutely refuse to live with my mother-in-law. It would be too stressful, mentally exhausting, and clearly require a lot of patience. This is bad. There's no sign of my mother-in-law returning to my sister-in-law's place. It seems like my husband has accepted living with my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law won't try to bring her back. This is a completely unfavorable situation. I felt overwhelmed by a sense of despair. Feeling upset, I flopped onto my bed and suddenly noticed something different. The arrangement of my cosmetics had changed. My mother-in-law must have used them. If she's going to use them, I wish she would have asked beforehand. But more importantly, I can't tolerate someone entering my room without permission. At this point, there was no evidence that my mother-in-law entered my room and used my cosmetics, but I felt a strong sense of disgust. Maybe I'm being paranoid after hearing my sister-in-law's story, but I started feeling uneasy in my own room, so I checked the bookshelf, closet, and small storage compartments. Huh? I let out a surprised voice. Among the $300 that were placed in the drawer, $100 were missing. I had planned to deposit that money in the bank tomorrow. There should definitely be $300, but now it's only $200. Could it be? Erica's story started to seem more plausible. The missing $100 and the actions of my mother-in-law taking money from the house without permission became clear in my mind. I felt like I was being in a crisis. If we already have compatibility issues and money problems are added to it, I wouldn't be able to bear it. This situation is bad. I'm starting to think that living with my mother-in-law is absolutely impossible. However, my husband and mother-in-law didn't return home until 9 p.m. that night. Finally, I had a chance to talk with my husband when my mother-in-law was taking a bath. Hey, what are we going to do about your mother from now on?
What do you mean? She's going to live here, right?
No, living together is impossible. I don't want that.
Huh? What do you mean by that?
Why would he ask me that? Was what I thought. And then he says,
You're being cold. She was kicked out by my brother, Mom.
I asked Erica, and she said that your mother left on her own, not that she was kicked out.
Even if that's the case, we can't just leave a parent without a place to go.
It's not like we have to decide right away. How about she rents an apartment or something, and once she's ready, she can move there. You know that your mother and I don't get along, right?
You say you two don't get along, but maybe you just don't realize how considerate she is.
No, you've complained about various things too, haven't you?
Huh? Did I? I don't remember. But living together shouldn't be such a big problem. Mom said she would contribute to the household expenses.
I can't trust that promise. How awful! How dare you, Lucy? What have I done to you? Ah? A high-pitched scream echoed from behind. Unbelievably, my mother-in-law had come out of the bath and entered the living room. It was like a quick wash-up. I don't think it even lasted for 5 minutes. You thought of me that way? You! I can't let someone like you, this woman, take care of my precious son. Get a divorce. Huh? Suddenly talking about divorce is too sudden, isn't it? Mike is kind-hearted and considerate. He understands my feelings. It's disappointing that he's not the heir, even though he's much more capable than his brother. I can't entrust my son like this to someone with your character. Get a divorce. From now on, I'll live with my son. Leave. While the mother-in-law was shouting, a faint smile appeared on her face. Something seemed off. Mother-in-law, why are you smiling? Huh? Did you really take a bath? Were you waiting for me to say something wrong? I didn't even hear the sound of a hairdryer, but your hair is already dry. That's not true. You impolite daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law clearly became agitated, and as for my husband, he avoided making eye contact with me. It was evident that the two of them were plotting to drive me out of the house. Anger welled up inside me. Mike, between me and your mother, who do you think is being cruel?
Me?
Who else is here in this room? If there's someone else, bring them here.
I...
My husband looked between me and my mother-in-law alternately. I was glaring angrily, and my mother-in-law had a spiteful smile. Then my mother-in-law says, Just say it, Mike. Come on. And directed my husband. He nodded and suddenly started speaking clearly.
I'll live with my mom rather than you. It's you who should leave. Pack your things and get out quickly.
What do you mean by that? At the sound of my stern voice from the bottom of my heart, my husband momentarily flinched, and immediately my mother-in-law says, Look, my son is saying he can't live with you either. You're causing all the problems, Lucy. It's you. And pointed at me as if she had found the culprit.
Yeah, it's true. Just as my mom says.
My husband also raised his arm as if seizing the opportunity, even though he had been frightened just a moment ago. Our relationship with my mother-in-law hadn't been going well. At this moment, any affection I had for my husband completely vanished, and I had no lingering feelings. I couldn't say anything to this man. I was just amazed. Ignoring his wife's words completely and simply obeying his mother's orders. Infuriating. Unforgivable. I understand. Let's get a divorce.
Huh? Divorce?
Lucy, well done. You're obedient in the end. It's good, Mike.
Huh? What?
Feeling disgusted by my husband's reaction, I also felt irritated by the way my mother-in-law spoke. I don't need any consolation money. I'll take all the furniture and appliances that I purchased. Is that okay? Please, go ahead, right, Mike? My mother-in-law was in a very good mood, and my husband's eyes were darting back and forth as the conversation rapidly progressed. I muttered to myself in my mind, I won't regret it, even if I'm left with nothing. That night, we got the divorce paper ready and signed it. It felt like we decided on the divorce in the heat of the moment, but I absolutely didn't want to live a life controlled by my mother-in-law. I couldn't accept being treated as an intruder by my husband, who was instigated by my mother-in-law, and I didn't need a husband like that. My mother-in-law volunteered to be a witness on the divorce form, and I asked my sister-in-law to be the other witness. After that, we quickly submitted the divorce form and hurried through the moving procedures. After submitting the divorce paper, there was no conversation at all with my husband and mother-in-law. We interacted like strangers who coincidentally happened to be on the same train, and it didn't feel comfortable, but I endured it and overlooked it until the move. On the day of the move, I gave instructions to the movers and watched as the furnitures and appliances were carried out one after another. While watching that, my mother-in-law let out a surprised voice. Wait a minute. Why are you removing the air conditioner, Lucy? Why? Because that belongs to me. Where is the TV? The TV is also mine, and the washing machine, vacuum cleaner, microwave, hairdryer, and others are mine too. Before we got married, my husband lived in a furnished one-room apartment. On the other hand, I lived in a regular rental apartment and purchased my own furniture and appliances. When we started living together after getting married, I brought most of my furniture and appliances here. We bought a new refrigerator when we got married, so I'll leave that behind. And also the bathroom scale. What are you doing? Put them back. We can't live like this. Most of the furniture and appliances are mine. Mike knows that well, right? My husband was staring blankly at the items being carried out. I asked the movers to continue their work without paying attention to the exchange between me and my mother-in-law. In the meantime, my mother-in-law repeatedly berated and criticized me without any shame. With a look that seemed to say my actions were unreasonable, my husband and mother-in-law muttered complaints in the corner, and my mother-in-law continued to attack me with actions that were meant to be unpleasant, pretending to break down in tears and constantly making me feel uncomfortable. I was both amazed and disgusted by my mother-in-law's numerous behaviors that was meant to make the other person uncomfortable in such a short amount of time. Perhaps my brother-in-law couldn't bear my mother-in-law's attitude and verbal attacks anymore. I felt the same way. After the moving was finished, I confirmed something with my mother-in-law. By the way, have you found a new place to move, mother-in-law?
Huh? There's no need to move, right?
What are you talking about? This is a company-owned apartment that my company rents. Huh? My mother-in-law was shocked to the point where the world seemed to be upside down. A company-owned apartment? Your company's? Yes, that's right. If I leave, you can't live here. Huh? I have already informed the company about the divorce and your contact information. I think you'll receive a call from the General Affairs Department soon. Take care. I bid farewell cheerfully. My mother-in-law had a surprised expression, and my husband either looked lost and simply just nodded. This is a family-type company-owned apartment, but my new place to move is a rented apartment for singles. After moving, my commuting time became shorter and I had more time in the morning. I only had to take care of household chores for one person and I could freely enjoy drinking alcohol. Living alone was truly comfortable and I was enjoying my single life. While having a drink after work, the phone rang. The caller was my ex-husband. I had become a bit old due to the alcohol. Although I should have ignored it, I ended up answering the phone.
It's me, Lucy. I'm sorry. Please come back.
As soon as the call connected, my ex-husband suddenly shouted like that. Oh, I'm already back home.
No, I mean, I want you to come back to me.
Huh? Wow, what a strange person you are. I burst into laughter because it was too amusing.
I received a call from the General Affairs Department of your company, and they said it's fine for me to keep living in this company-owned apartment.
Well, that's great.
But that's not okay. The rent for this place is $1,300.
Well, of course. It's because the location is great. For a family-type property near the train station, it's natural for the rent to be that high. Until now, we split the rent with the help of the company's housing allowance, and the remaining amount that couldn't be covered was split equally between us as a couple. That was $300 from my side, and my mother-in-law took away $100 from it.
I was manipulated by my mom. I had no place to go, and I relied on you, the only person who could help me. I was flattered when she said that, and tried to protect my mother. So I acted harshly towards you. I didn't actually intend to get a divorce.
I see, but we're already divorced, so I won't come back.
You know my income, right? It's impossible for me to pay the rent, buy appliances, and take care of my mom on top of that.
I'm irritated by his stating the obvious at this point and continuously pleading with me.
Lucy, I'm sorry. Please, come back.
You're the one who told me to leave. I never want to have anything to do with your mother again. Absolutely impossible. Well then, bye.
Hey, don't hang up.
Well then, I'll hang up. I turned off my smartphone and drank my beer. Wow, it's delicious. A husband who disregards his wife at the instigation of his own mother is someone I can do without. I completely forgot about my ex-husband and happily got drunk. The next morning, I almost overslept and quickly rushed to work. I completely forgot that I had turned off my smartphone, drank too much, and didn't realize that the alarm wasn't ringing. That was close. I managed to make it to work on time, and once I settled at my desk, I checked my smartphone. I received a large number of messages from my ex-husband after all. Ignoring all of that, what I wanted to see was, there it is, a message from my sister-in-law. How are you doing? Is living alone comfortable? Our family has safely completed the move. Thank you. That's good. It seems they have also finished moving. In fact, anticipating my ex-husband seeking help, I suggested to my sister-in-law and her family that they should move. My ex-husband couldn't maintain the living standard that my mother-in-law desires. In that case, my mother-in-law would turn to my sister-in-law for help. Neither my sister-in-law nor my brother-in-law would want that. So I made sure they wouldn't be found before she could make up a reason to return back to them. I made the suggestion when I asked them to be witnesses to the divorce. My sister-in-law and her family had multiple family meetings and decided to move. I don't know the new place they moved to. I'm relieved. Congratulations. I replied to my sister-in-law. Several months later, my ex-husband and mother-in-law moved out of that company-owned apartment. They couldn't continue living there. It's natural since my ex-husband doesn't have the income to cover the $1,300 monthly rent. They moved to an old apartment far away from the station in the opposite direction of my new place. My mother-in-law believed that she and her son could live in a family-type apartment near the station, but the reality was different from her expectations, and she was already blaming her son for it. It seems that the living expenses she said she would provide are also not being given. It seems she tried to return to my sister-in-law's place, but they have already moved, and someone else is living there. Of course, I don't know where my sister-in-law and her family moved to. So my ex-mother-in-law reluctantly returned to my ex-husband's place and is venting out her dissatisfaction. Every time something happens, my ex-husband contacts me and asks for help, but he's just a stranger to me now. I don't have any connection with him anymore because I enjoy being alone. I was tired of my ex-husband's updates, so I changed my phone number. Now I don't have to be involved in irrelevant discussions about my terrible ex-mother-in-law. I no longer have to be chased by a mama's boy who can't see the future of his own family. I'm 27 years old this year. Divorce has put my life back on track. I don't think much about having failed at marriage once. My fun life is just beginning.